Hello and welcome to episode 128 of the She Must Knit podcast. My name is Erin and thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. Or should I be saying tonight, because again it is another late evening podcast. Dennis is out at soccer and Kira finally settled down to bed. She was a little bit of an adventure tonight because she was overtired and she did not want to settle down, but she looks like she has settled down. And like I said, Dennis is out, so I have the house to myself right now. I have a lot to talk about. I'm hoping that I can get through everything before Dennis gets home. Yes, I know that I could do it when Dennis is home, but I don't want to. It's weird for me. So we'll see how that goes. If he comes home before I finish, maybe I'll just add an extra little part at the end or do some in a different way. But yeah, it has been about 3 weeks since my last episode, and guys, I think you're going to be shocked with how much I was able to get done. I've had a very productive couple of weeks. With the last episode, I think at the end, I gave you guys some kind of goals that I was hoping to finish or work on. I believe I said I was pretty sure I was going to finish Owen's socks. I was hoping to work on Dennis's socks. And then because I would finish Owen's socks, I was either going to work on my microstripe socks or cast on a new pair because I have some other gift pairs. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then I was going to finish sewing the pajama bags for the girls that I wanted to do. And then I was debating on doing one or two other things. I think I was also going to try and finish the intarsia part of Kira's sweater. So my plan going into this whole thing was that, I figured, 3 weeks seems to be about a good time frame for me to work on things. A month is a little too much and 2 weeks is a little too little. So I was like, okay, around the middle of March, whatever I have done, whatever I've worked on, that's what I'll share. And I've got so much to share with you. So let's get started. First, I'm going to start with the obvious thing. I was pretty sure that I was going to be able to finish Owen's socks, and I have. I have finished his Christmas gift socks, and these were a pretty easy finish. This color is just like the striping pattern was really fun to work on. I was going between these socks and Dennis's socks were just kind of a plain brown yarn, not very interesting, so a lot of my time got put into these. I think after the last episode, these only took me a couple of days to get finished. So I made these in the Turtle Pearl yarns in the Artist colorway, and I really love how these turned out. So we're going to have a whole bunch of sock talk in this episode, so if there's any new viewers out there, I'll just quickly run through what I tend to do for my socks, because you're going to see this over and over again. I usually cast on either 72 stitches for the cuff if I'm making them for my brothers or for my mom, so like a smaller leg circumference. I do 2x1 rib, and then if I'm doing a larger leg circumference, either for myself or for some of the other people I knit for that like a roomier leg, I do 81 stitches and then again a 2x1 rib. I do a nice, the leg of the sock can vary depending on if I want them taller or shorter or whatnot. I pretty much always do a strong heel, so that you can see here I do increases, and I really like the strong heel because it's very easy to incorporate into the sock without doing a flap or all those kind of things, picking up stitches. It's incorporated into the sock, and I like to do mine where the increase section I do in reverse stockinette so I can keep track of things with the pearls. And then once you increase, you turn the heel and kind of join everything back in the round. You're working in around again. And then depending on who I'm making the socks for, I do different amounts of rows before doing the toe. So when I'm making socks for my brothers, all my brothers have about the same size feet. So they all get 75 rows before I do the toe. So that is basically these socks. And then after I finish these, I was like, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to work on Dennis's socks? Are we going to work on the microstripe socks? I know one of you in the comments said I should just get those microstripe socks done before casting on another pair. And I was like, that's probably a good idea. But I know when I focus on a pair of socks that they really only take me a couple of days. When I was back in my heyday of doing Desert Vista Dyeworks socks every month, and I didn't have a toddler taking all my time, and Avery was older, and I could really just kind of chill out on the couch in the evenings and like knit, I could do a pair of socks in 4 days, like a whole pair in 4 days. So I know if I put the time into it, like I can get socks done. So I decided, I'm like, you know what? If I don't do it now, it's never going to happen. I'm just going to get Dennis's socks done. So that's what I did. I sat down, I pulled out his socks, I decided just to focus on them until they were done. And again, it only took me maybe 3 or 4 days to get these done. So I finished Dennis's socks too. I thought these were going to take me a couple of months, maybe just working on them on and off, because really, I mean, look at them. They're really not all that exciting, are they? But I put the effort in, and I sat down, and this is all I worked on for a couple of days, and I got Dennis's socks done. So with Dennis's socks, again, I cast on the 72 stitches because it's a narrower leg, but he has the same size feet as I do, so I do 60 rows on the foot before the toe. Do I have the ball band? Yes, I do. So the yarn that I used for those is this here, and you can see it has a nice little picture there. It's just your kind of standard rougher workhorse yarn, which is another reason why it wasn't very pleasant to knit with, but that's the kind of yarn he needs. Otherwise his feet just eat through anything that is like softer. So Dennis's socks are done. I will probably put these aside and save them for like maybe our anniversary or something. There's really no, or Father's Day. Should I do them for Father's Day? Maybe, because there is a potential that I could get another pair of socks done for our anniversary or for Christmas. I might be getting ahead of myself there. But I really would like to get through some more of the yarn that I put aside as like man yarn, like rustic, you know, whatever yarn that I've set aside for Dennis. I really would like to get through some more of that. So maybe we can be ambitious, and I can say I'll give them these for Father's Day, and we will do another pair of socks this year, because technically I cast these on last year, and so to make him another pair this year would be like just one pair this year. So that's what we might do. Anyway, so those are done, and those will both actually I think everything that I've worked on today, or that I'm going to be showing you today, will work towards my bingo card, which we will talk about later. So let's just go through all the projects, and then we'll discuss the bingo card towards the end of the episode. We'll do a little update there. So after I finished Dennis's socks, I was like, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to cast on another pair of socks, because I have a whole bunch of gift socks on my bingo card that I need to work on? Or should we work on the microstripe socks? Should we do the microstripe socks and cast on another pair of socks and just have another 2 pairs of socks going? What do I want to do? So building off the momentum of finishing Owen's socks and Dennis's socks, I decided, you know what? We're just going to bring out those microstripe socks, and we're just going to focus on those and see if we can finish those too. And that's what I did. I got those socks out, and I focused them on them for a few days, and I finished my microstripe socks. I think I checked my Ravelry project page, and I cast these on sometime in 2019. That is how long they have been on the needles. Once Kira arrived, a lot of things kind of got put on the back burner, and I just didn't touch them for a while. But they're really fun to knit, so I was looking forward to focusing on them again, and I did get them done. And these are for me, so these have an 81. They start off with an 81 stitch count, and then for mine, I like to decrease on the foot. I go down to about 70 stitches for the foot. Now, one thing I will note, you may notice that these have different heels. Back in 2019, when I was making these socks, I forget what my other standard heel was, because for a while I was doing toe-up socks, and I had a different heel that I did for that. And I don't know if I was doing a different heel when I did top-down socks. That part of my knitting history is all a blur. Maybe my longtime viewers, you might be able to tell me what kind of heels I used to do. But this is a German short row heel because of the patterning and stuff. I put a German short row heel in. Well, sock knitter Erin of today does not do German short row heels. And I didn't feel like going back and relearning how to do a German short row heel. I wanted to do the heel that I like to do now, which is the strong heel. So I decided to figure out how to put that in. I also wanted to see how it would look with the micro stripe kind of technique, because that is something that I want to keep doing. It's really fun to do, and I wanted to see how my preferred heel kind of worked with this kind of patterning. So I think what I did is I took the original sock and I laid it against one of my socks with a strong heel and kind of marked where on the leg the strong heel began to be the similar sizing. So that's what this little stitch marker is here. Here, this is where the strong heel kind of begins. And you can see it's quite a bit different from where the German short row heel begins. And then for on this sock, that is where I started this heel. And I really like how this heel kind of works with this technique because I was able to do all the increases while still doing the micro stripes. And then once I got down to where I turned the heel and worked the decreases, that is down here, and you can see that was done all in the contrast. So this yarn here. And then once I finished the decreases and I got back to the stitch count that I wanted to, I started micro striping again, and that went all the way down the foot. So I think it still works out pretty well. And yeah, I was able to get this long standing whip off the needles. So I think that is all I have to say about those. So yeah, I had a whole bunch of socks that I'd finished. I had no socks on the needles. Actually, that's a lie. I have in a bag somewhere some scrappy socks that I don't know if I'll ever get back to. But in terms of socks that I'm actually working on or actually want to work on, I had no socks on the needles. So now I had to figure out, okay, what did I want to do? The next couple pairs on my bingo card that were gifts or that would be coming up that I wanted to finish or work on or cast on, whatever, is a pair for my mom, because I usually give her her pair for Mother's Day, I think. Either Mother's Day or her birthday. Mother's Day is in May, her birthday's in June, so it's kind of all in the same area. So I knew I wanted to get those started soon. And then also on my bingo card is a pair of socks from my friend Rebecca, and I always give her her pair for her birthday, which is in June. So I knew those were going to be the next two pairs that I was going to work on. So I think I cast on the pair for my mom first, and my plan was just to work on those. And I actually wanted to do another pair of microstripe socks. I think this is just going to be the year of microstripe socks, where I kind of go through my stash and find all these yarns that I might not want to work on their own, but paired with a solid, it will end up looking really neat. So far I have done microstripe socks using a sock blank, and I really like that. This pair here, I don't think I showed you the yarn for this. I don't know what this sparkle yarn is. That ball band is long gone. It might be on the project page if I linked it properly, but I don't know. But the colored yarn is this here, and it's kind of a mix between a sock blank and a striping yarn. Because it's done in, these shorter little sock blanky tube things, and then as you knit them, they did stripe. So I liked making microstripe socks with a sock blank. That was really fun. I really enjoyed it with this yarn here because it was striping. That was really fun. But I hadn't yet tried it in a speckle yarn. So I actually did cast on this pair of socks for my mom, and I started them off as microstripe socks. But after about maybe 10 or 15 rows, I decided I didn't like the microstripe technique with speckled yarn. And I think the key is that there's no change in pattern. Like speckled yarn tends to be speckled yarn. There's not a lot of variation once you get going. Like all the colors are just kind of repetitive through the yarn. Whereas with the sock blank, because it's kind of an irregular dye technique, and striping yarns, because the stripes change, there's something that kind of keeps you going when you're knitting them to see what the next section is going to look like, and it kind of keeps you going. And that's the magical part of microstripes or helical knitting. I don't think I mentioned this, but the technique I think is technically called helical knitting, that's what you would want to look up if you were curious about trying this. It's very, very simple. I'll talk about it with my next project. But I tried it with this, with the speckled yarn. I picked out, do I have the band for this? Yes, I do. So I picked out this yarn here from my stash. I got this at a show years and years and years ago. And why I picked this out originally, because I was going to do the microstripes, is I have found with the socks that I've done microstripes with, you need about 100 grams for the contrast. So if you are going to be doing the cuff in the contrast and then striping with the contrast, you know, doing a heel with the contrast, and then down in the toe with the contrast, you need almost a full skein. Whereas the middle part that's on the leg and the foot, you only need about half a skein. I was looking at the other two pairs I've done, and I think both times I used less than 50 grams of yarn for the main part of the sock. So this yarn here from, this Richard DeVries yarn, his sock yarn is in these smaller little skeins. They're 65 grams. So I thought, oh, this is perfect because I can use this to do microstripes because it's not even a full skein. And then I had this yarn here, which was also in my stash. One of the things that I figured out while going through my entire little yarn stash back there looking for yarns for microstripe socks is that I have a shortage of solid yarns. I really don't have a lot of solid color sock yarn in order to match up with all the other, like the variegateds and the speckles, and well, not speckles because we determined I don't like that. But the variegateds, that's something I have to try, but I think that would work too. The variegated, the sock blanks, and the striping yarns, I don't have a lot of solid yarns to pair with them. So this was one of the very few solid yarns that I had. And it's this beautiful kind of blurply color there. And this is some Volmise. How many of you were around back in, Avery was a baby, so maybe 2011. I remember watching Knit Girls all the time, and Volmise was like the hot potato. That's the yarn that everybody was using. I don't know how I managed to get a skein of this because it's from, I think it's a European yarn. I think I got it in a swap or something. I have had this for eons. It's almost as old as Avery is. But that's one of my few solid yarns that I had in my stash. And it's 150 grams skein, so I can use it for, I should be able to use it for more than one sock, which I am going to be doing. But yeah, I thought it would pair up really nicely with this kind of speckled color. And I started off doing the microstripes. And like I said, after about 15 rows, I decided I didn't like it. There was no change in patterning, so there was nothing to make me want to keep doing it. And I also think it took away from the beauty of the speckles. Like, this is a really, really pretty kind of mixture of colors, and I think doing the microstripes, like breaking them up with the little tiny stripes, it really kind of took away from the colors of these speckles. So I ripped it back and I decided to do my mom's socks with just the plain speckled yarn, but with the contrast, because I do think that looks very pretty. So I cast these on shortly after finishing the other microstripe socks. But that wasn't enough for me. I was like, okay, I only have one pair of socks on the needles now. Sometimes I like to bounce back and forth between two pairs. And that pair, because it's just kind of plain knitting, you know, just isn't as exciting as having like a striping pair or something like that on the needles. So I decided, since I wanted those to be microstripe socks, and they were no longer, that I was going to try again and cast on a pair of microstripe socks. So the next person that I wanted to work on socks for is my friend Rebecca. And so I looked through my stash to see if I had anything that I thought she might like that I could also pair with this, because this is one of my few solid yarns. And I found something. So I bought this. This is probably the newest addition to, actually no, that's a lie. The newest additions to my yarn stash would be the skeins that I received in my Advent swaps in December. But the newest thing that I bought would be, I think, this skein. So back in August, when I was doing the Berry, the Fiber Spirit Fiber Show, I don't tend to buy a lot at shows anymore just because I don't need a lot. But this booth was across from me. It's the Orange Octopus, and they have a very eye-catching booth. If you've ever been to one of the shows locally and have seen their booth, they have a very eye-catching booth. They have this homemade felt banner with this like octopus tentacles and all these things. It's very eye-catching. And so they were right across from me, and so the whole show for hours I was staring at their booth, and they had these little rainbow skeins in like a 2-pack, so 2 50-gram gradients, so that you could, I think the intention is that you would have these matching gradient socks. But when I bought them, I was like, oh, it's going to be really cute if I were to make both Kira and Avery a matching something. Maybe I could make them matching hats, maybe I could make them, I don't know. But because they had split it in 2, I could do a matching gradient something. Well, that idea has gone out the window because instead of making socks for my friend. So I've started off with the one, and I'm microstriping it with the kind of blurply color, and this is how it's working out. Can you see how much I've worked on these? I cast on my mom's socks first, but after I cast these on, again, this is all I want to work on because this technique just, it's like potato chips. It's like Lay's regular, slightly salted potato chips that you just can't stop. You got to keep working on it because you want to see how it's going to progress. And because this is a gradient, I was working through this pink section. I'm like, okay, you know, there's a little bit of speckling in there, and you know, there's some parts that have a little bit of orange in them, but I was like, I want to see what the orange looks like. I want to see what the next color looks like. And so I got into the next color, and I was like, okay, how long is it going to be before I get to the next color? I even pulled some out of the little skein to see how much I had left to get to the yellow. And I was like, I want to see what the yellow looks like. Am I going to get to the yellow? I think that because this is a longer gradient, for the first sock, I'm going to get to the toe, and I will be kind of getting into that yellow part. And then the second sock will be the remaining 3 colors. So it will be, I'll start off with the yellow, or part of the yellow, and then it will go into this green and blue. I might not get to the purple at the end of the sock, but I think they're going to be kind of these really fun, mismatched rainbow gradient socks in the end. So yeah, I am on the foot now, and you can see that I've got my little markers in. I've got 30 rows done. These are for my friend, and she has the same size feet as I do. So I'm going to be doing 60 rows, and then the toe. So I only have 30 rows to go, and the toe, and this sock will be done. And I cast this on like days ago. It's just so much fun to knit. So if you are not familiar with the microstripe technique or helical knitting, it's super, super simple. All you're doing is alternating one row. You're using one yarn per row, like one row, one yarn, and then the next row, the other yarn, and then you switch back. And the key is, so that you don't get any jogs along where your needles meet, is that you're just not going to cross your yarn. So you want to make sure, like as I'm knitting, when I finish one round, I just kind of move my yarn skeins so that the yarns are still separated when I go to do my next row. So yeah, when I go to do my next row, I make sure that, I don't know if you can see this, but I make sure that the yarns are kind of going in their own direction, and the next yarn up is not crossed over the previous yarn. If you just Google helical knitting techniques, you'll find a video. I found it super simple to find a video when I first tried it. I even think on my first pair of helical knitting socks, I linked to the video I used. What I maybe will try and do is, if you're on Ravelry and it's something you want to look into, I'll try and link that video on this project page. But it's very, very simple. It's basically the same as knitting your plain socks. But yeah, it's just more fun. It's more fun. I think this is going to be the year of microstripe socks, but I do need to figure out how to get more solid yarns. I might have to over dye some stuff. We'll figure that out when I need to figure that out. So this is the other pair of socks that I'm working on. So that makes it that I have 2 pairs now. I'm back to 2 pairs of socks that I am working on, and I have a feeling that those are going to be done fairly quickly. Okay, so I think that's all the socks. What's next? What do I want to show you next? One of the other goals that I had in the last episode was to finish the intarsia, at least the intarsia of Kira's sweater, but maybe even the body of Kira's sweater, because I knew once the intarsia was done the rest of the sweater would be super simple. And I was able to do that. So let's talk about Kira's sweater next. As a reminder, the reason I am making her this sweater is because it is dinosaur themed. And for her 3rd birthday coming up in April, I'm doing kind of like a little dinosaur theme with, the cake and some of the gifts that I've picked out for her. And I picked up these super fun, super crazy dinosaur pants, and my original goal was to make some sort of garment that could go with those pants, that she could wear with those pants. So I found a pattern in my library. It's a book that I actually had. This is Knit for Boys by Kate Oates, and in this book there was a sweater that had a dinosaur on it. And I thought that was perfect. It worked towards my bingo card because one of my goals was make a pattern from a book or magazine in my library. And then it was also a dinosaur theme and, yada, yada, yada. It was just everything kind of, all the stars aligned, if you will. And last time I showed you, I think I was into the dinosaur. And I kind of explained how the sizing was a little wonky because the pattern calls for an Aran weight yarn, and the yarn that I found that was a perfect match to the pants was a DK weight yarn. This is the label here. It's a Sirdar color wheel. It was basically one giant cake of a gradient yarn, and it was a DK weight. So I had to do a bunch of fudging to try to figure out the sizing, and what I ended up with was casting on the numbers for the size 12, and then I was going to adjust the chest size, but I didn't end up having to do that because as I worked on the size 12 numbers in this yarn and measured it, it looked like it was going to be working up to a perfect size 4, which is what I wanted. And I can confirm that it is. I've put it against one of her sweatshirts that she has that is a 4T, and it is like exact. Like the chest size, like the width is exact. So this is a size, it's working up to the size 4, which is what I wanted. And guys, I have finished the body of the sweater. So I have finished the intarsia, the dinosaur is done. I have finished the body, I got the ribbing. This darker purple color yarn here is some Peyton's Astra that I had in my stash. Everything so far has been stash yarn. That is my unofficial goal this year, is just to work from stash. So I was quite pleased with how these two yarns kind of work together. But not only did I finish the body of the sweater and finish the chart, but I got one of the sleeves done too. And honestly, I think I could have gotten the other sleeve done as well, but I just decided to start working on some other things. So if I wasn't working on all the other new things and casting new things on and all this other stuff, I probably could have gotten the other sleeve done, but that leaves something fun for the next episode, doesn't it? So I got another sleeve done, and I basically didn't follow the pattern. I never follow the patterns for sleeves. I just kind of, after I take the stitches off and pick them back up again, I just wing it. I decrease every 10 rows until it looks good, and then I added a cuff. So I do have the stitch markers. You can see I've got stitch markers in place. I put those in every time I do a decrease so that when I do eventually pick up for the other sleeve, I'll be able to put decreases in the same place. I modeled the length of this sleeve off of the sweatshirt that I mentioned that was the perfect width for this. Like I'm matching up all the lengths and stuff to that sweatshirt because that sweatshirt is a pretty good fit on her. It's roomy on her, it's big on her, but not so big that she can't wear it, which is exactly what I want for this sweater because I'd like her to get, at least a year or two or maybe more out of it. The only thing I will say about this pattern, and I think I forgot to mention it last time, I'm trying to find where it is. Yes. So one thing I did not like about how this pattern was written is that the chart is done in intarsia in the round. So you're not just doing a row and then going back with your bobbins. And I think I mentioned this last time. I didn't bother with bobbins. I hate bobbins. I hate most color work. I decided just to carry my floats, and I kind of did, I carried floats and just dealt with it. But with intarsia in the round and following the chart, what she had to do, she just said, okay, put your markers in, follow the chart, and when you get to the end of the round, do a wrap and turn. So that's what the instructions said, do a wrap and turn. And I have done wrap and turns in my knitting career, if you will. And I have yet to find a wrap and turn technique that is completely invisible if you're doing like a straight stocking net kind of fabric. I haven't been able to find a wrap and turn where it's just completely invisible. I tried picking up the wraps, I've tried doing all that, and I find that you can still see something. And I did not like that this pattern had the beginning of the round, like it wasn't in an inconspicuous spot. It was like kind of on the back, but not even like the center. Like it was, you can actually see right here. So where this fabric is a little funky here, this is where the beginning of the round was. Okay, so I apologize for the weird little cut there. Dennis came home and it's now 40 minutes later. And I'm only now getting back to try and finish this. So he's upstairs now, and he's promised me that he's going to sit in the room and watch some sort of depressing documentary so that I can finish this up, because I really don't feel like doing a second part tomorrow, because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think, I'm trying to remember, we were talking about Kira's sweater, and I think I was talking about the intarsia in the round and how there was a wrap and turn, and the placement of the wrap and turn was in this weird spot on the back, and it just ended up making the fabric like really, really funky. You can kind of see there's a disturbance there, and that's after I decided that I didn't like how it was looking. I kind of ripped it, like I dropped the stitches back, and I tried to pick them back up in a way that was just a little smoother. So this is an improvement over what it looked like before. And what I ended up having to do, I think you can see it here, is I moved the beginning of the round where you did the wrap and turn. I moved it to fall along the sleeve increase. So there's this, the way the sleeve increases are done, you get this kind of ridge here. And so I moved the beginning of the round so that the disturbance in the fabric because of the wrap and turn would fall right along the sleeve increases, so that it just wouldn't be as noticeable sitting right there in the middle of, you know, plain stockinette, which was driving me nuts. And then after I took the sleeve off the holders, I just did like I think you can kind of see it there, I did like a faux seam using some slip stitches, and then I carried that wrap and turn down the side of that seam. So I found that worked a little better in terms of hiding the wrap and turn. I kind of wish that had been done a little better in the pattern. Like I cannot imagine what the prototype of this sweater looked like. Like there's no pictures of the back of the sweater in the book to see how the designer managed to work around that. So I have no idea. And I did read in some of the other project pages, there's only a few for this pattern, but other people had the same issue with the wrap and turn making kind of a weirdness on the back of the sweater. So that's what I did, and I'm happy enough with it. Do I love that there's kind of this little funky bit right there? Not really, but Kira won't know, and it's fine. So basically all I have left to do on this sweater is the other sleeve, and because it's a gradient, there's really no repeat in the color patterning, so the sleeve on this side is not going to match the sleeve on this side. And you might remember from the last episode that I wasn't even sure if I would have enough of this yarn to do the sleeves. I was debating on if I would have to do the whole sleeves in the purple, but I think I will have enough. So I have this section of the yarn that I had removed that was actually from like this top part of the gradient. It actually went this yellow connected to this orange here. So the start of the cake was actually this turquoise. So it went turquoise, green, yellow, and then the yellow kind of merged into this orange. And I just didn't want this to be the top of the sweater. I really wanted it to be more the oranges and pinks and purples, because those are the colors that are more dominant in the Crazy Dinosaur Pants. So I had this cake that I had kind of pulled off the main cake, and I think this is what I'm going to use to finish this other sleeve. And it will kind of mimic what's going on this side. We have a turquoise that blends into a green that kind of blends into a more yellowish green. And here we have a turquoise that blends into a green that goes into a yellow. So it's not going to be exact, but it kind of is in the same family as the other one. And so I think it'll be okay. I think it should be okay. And then with the cuff being the purple, I think it will end up being all right. So yeah, let's save my goals for the end of the episode. But I don't think it's going to be a problem getting this sweater done for the next time I talk to you. And the only other thing I want to mention is that I'm hoping you can kind of see the neckline is a little roly-poly. I tried to do a rib first and I did not like how that looked. It flipped. And so I just did a pick up stitches and then basically cast off purlwise to give like just a little contrast edge. And I think what I'm going to do with the whole sweater is do a little bit of a steam and a press. Because this is acrylic, it's not going to block quite the same way as if it was wool, but I have done kind of a steam and a press with acrylic projects before, and I do find it helps. So that's what I'm hoping to do with the neckline, to kind of press that flat. I'm hoping to kind of get the motif there in the middle to lay a little flatter with a little bit of a press. So we'll see. We'll see the next time. Hopefully this will be done and I'll be able to see or show you if that worked or not. We'll have to see next time. So that's something else that I worked on. And then what else do I have to show you? I have another project that I worked on that I think you're going to be very surprised to see. So this is another project that I started. When did I start this? 2020 maybe? I think it might have been 2020. It was either 2019 or 2020, but I have a feeling it was 2020. But I really haven't touched it since then. It's been kind of sitting and languishing in a project bag on my shelf. But I decided to pull this out because this would work also towards my bingo card. I don't have a garment square on my card, but I do have several spots where I want to finish old projects, and this would work for that. So how many of you remember my trestle tee? I cast this on ages ago. I got the neckline done. The pattern, I don't know what to tell you about it because I haven't really looked at it in ages. I'm pretty sure I followed the pattern for the top part of the sweater, like that patterning there, and then the sleeves. But then after I took the sleeves off the needles, I've kind of just doing my own thing because I'm doing a split front and back. I would have mentioned that when I was working on this pattern, or when I started it, that I have a commercially made sweater or top, it's not really a sweater, that is like my favorite thing to wear, and it has one of these splits. Like the splits go up on the side and they go really high up, and it is just so darn comfortable because the bottom of like the hem part of the shirt just doesn't like cling, and it doesn't, like when you're sitting, it doesn't like it feel tight at all. That it's just airy and breezy and super comfortable. Yes, I have to wear like a little tank top under it, but that's fine. It's basically my daytime pajamas. If I'm home and I know I'm not going to go anywhere, that's my go-to outfit. That top, a tank top underneath, and a pair of leggings. Daytime pajamas. So I wanted to do the same thing with this just because that is such a comfortable design element, and I wanted to try it in a piece of knitwear. So the last time that I would have showed this to you, I had the sleeves taken off, and I had split for the front and the back, and I had worked a little bit on the front and a little bit on the back, and I was just kind of going back and forth between the two, kind of adding length as I went. And I decided to pull this out and just like, okay, let's just put some work into this. I'm at a part where it's just plain stockinette. I'm just working back and forth. Easy, don't have to think about it. There's no patterning. I got the whole front done. So you can see I've got my little border down there. I did have to try it on maybe twice just to see where the length was falling, because I knew I wanted to wear this with leggings. So I wanted the length to be where I like it, like tops to fall when I'm wearing leggings. And I'm planning on making the back just a little bit longer than the front, just a smidge. So I think it took me 2 balls 2 additional balls to finish the front part here. So I anticipate it's going to be about 2 balls, maybe 2.5 to do the back, because like I said, I just want to add a little bit more length. But otherwise, I'm really, really happy with the fit of it. It's just like how I wanted, where it's just very comfortable and very like open and breezy. And yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how this looks as a finished object. Now, will I wear it? That's another question. I have no idea. I cannot answer that. I am notorious for not wearing my finished knits. But we'll see if this one kind of works into my wardrobe. I think I have a pair of leggings that this will go with nicely, that has kind of little tiny pink polka dots on like a black background. So I'm picturing this with a black tank top underneath with those leggings. Might be super cute, who knows? But we will see. So I don't have much else to say on that. I will show you the yarn that I'm using. I remember doing a whole order. What was that website? It was a UK website. Gosh darn it, I cannot remember. If I can remember, I'll put it down here. But I remember getting a whole bunch of sweater quantities of yarn from this website, and this was one of them. And I have to say that this is a really, really pleasant yarn to work with. It's a DK weight. It's a cotton acrylic blend, but it feels just really nice and soft. It doesn't feel very acrylic-y at all. And it has, I don't know if you could tell from the knitted fabric, but it has a really pretty kind of like halo to it. So I'm hoping that the finished garment will be nice and kind of a little bit breezy. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that yarn. I should say I'll have to wash it and see how it washes. But as of now, I would consider getting this yarn again to do another garment. So that was kind of my surprise project. I wasn't really planning on working on that. I just kind of got an inkling one day where I was like, you know what? I really want to put some work into my sweater. And what's funny is that when I was working on my sweater, so okay, Kira has seen the dinosaur sweater. It's not going to be a complete surprise. She's up all the time basically now, so it's kind of hard to knit without her seeing what I'm working on. And so she has seen me working on her dinosaur sweater, and I have told her, oh, this is going to be a sweater for Kira. And then when I was working on this, I was like, this is a sweater for Mommy. And so there was one day when I was in our hallway in front, we have like mirrors on the closet doors, and that's where I kind of try things on so I can kind of get a full length view. And so I had put this on, and I was trying to gauge the length of it. And she saw me trying on my sweater, and of course she wanted to try on her sweater, so she ran to where my knitting was. She grabbed her dinosaur sweater. She wanted to try it on. I really wish I had gotten a picture because only one sleeve is done, so she was like all posing in front of the mirror with like one sleeve missing. It was really funny. But she's very excited about her sweater being done too. She keeps wanting to wear it and put it on, and I have to tell her that it's not done yet. She has to wait. But hopefully, I think next episode that will be done. So back to my projects. That was a surprise one. Wasn't planning on working on it. I just felt like it, and I'm really happy that I was able to get the one side done. After that, I think we just have some sewing projects, and then I thought I would do some goals for the next episode, because that's kind of fun, you know, making some goals, thinking about what I might be able to work on, and then coming back and seeing if I actually did it. So the final 2 things that I was able to finish, and this was another thing that last episode I said I thought I would be able to finish, and I did, is I finished the PJ bags for Avery and Kira for Christmas. So their Christmas, every Christmas Eve, they get a new pair of PJs to wear that night, and then Christmas morning. And I talked about this last episode, how for a couple of years now I've been using these boxes, just these Christmas print boxes that I got at the dollar store. But especially Avery's PJs are starting to outgrow those boxes. They just don't fit them very well. And since I've transitioned a lot of their gifts, like Christmas gifts, to bags that I've made, I wanted to make bags for the PJs. So now every Christmas Eve, I can just pop their PJs, their new PJs, in these bags, put them under the tree, and they each have their own print that kind of coordinates with the prints that they have for their Christmas gifts. So Avery's Christmas bags all have kind of Christmas cat prints, and so I found this print here with the Christmas themed cats for her PJ bag, and I just did a drawstring because I'm not worried about them peeking at their PJs, and I tend to put them all out on Christmas Eve anyway, so I didn't feel the need to have anything that I could like shut properly if I needed to. So yeah, I just did a drawstring, and then this is Kira's bag with the little polar bears, because her Christmas bag prints are kind of like whimsical forest creatures with Christmas motifs mixed in. So yeah, hers, and it's like turquoise and red kind of prints. So this is her PJ bag, and so I got those done. So I think that is everything that I have worked on. So I think, should we do the bingo card next and then talk about goals? Maybe we'll do that. I haven't looked at my bingo card. I haven't gone in and edited my bingo card to add all my new progress and stuff. So I think what I'm going to do is I will take a separate clip and maybe we'll do it together. I'll go on the computer and we can fill in all the little boxes together, and I'll insert that here, and then we'll come back and talk about my goals for the next time. All right, so here is my bingo card, and this is the way it was, I think, the last time that I shared it with you. And I'm just holding my phone up to record this, so if it gets a little shaky, I apologize. But let's see what changes we can make with the projects that I just finished. So we have Socks for Owen. I can move the little in progress thing off. And we can fill that in because that is now finished. So boom, and we need a little check mark. So let's take this, we will copy, we will paste, and we will move that over. So Socks for Owen, done. All right, so what else did I finish? I finished Dennis's socks, and I finished my micro stripe socks. So technically, I could fill both this box and this box because those are both projects that were old whips, but I kind of want to save those for some other projects that I have and just use these squares as motivation to finish other things. Like my trestle tee would fit in there, and I know an old shawl, and there's just some other projects that have been sitting for a long time. And I'd kind of like to use these squares as motivation. So I think what I'm going to do is apply those 2 pairs of socks to this square here and just knock this one out. So we are going to first fill it in. There we go. And then we're going to do a little pasty, get another check mark. Okay, so now we've got that filled in. Now, was there anything else that I finished? Oh, I did the PJ bag, so let's fill that one in. There we go. Put our check mark and that. Okay, so what else did I work on? We're still working on this one for Kira's sweater. We started Rebecca's socks, so I can put this here, and I can actually make another one of these and put it on my mom's socks because we started some socks for mom. Let's see, maybe we'll put another one over one of these whip ones because the trestle tee, I was working on that, and I don't think there's anything else that I finished or that I would be able to apply right now. So I think that's it. I think this is our updated card. And I will quickly mention, just in case you're a new viewer and you're wondering what this Crafty Bingo thing is, you can head over, if you're interested, to the Ravelry group, the Bling Your String Ravelry group, and there's a thread there where anybody can join at any time. And it's just kind of a fun way to make some goals for yourself to complete over the year, with the goal of filling as many bingos or the whole card or whatever. It's all geared towards what you want. So yeah, this is how my card is looking now. And I will send you back to the regular podcast. Okay, so that is how my bingo card is looking. It's very exciting to see the progress working on that. This is the first year where I've actually considered, I was like, am I going to fill my card this year? I don't know, I feel like I might be able to. Even looking at the goals that I have on there, because if you're new to the challenge, every June I allow participants to switch up to 3 goals if they want. Like if they've grown out of love with some of their goals, if some goals have changed, or situations in their life have changed and they know they're not going to be able to complete the goals, in June you can change up to 3 goals. So I've been looking at my goals thinking, how am I feeling about them? Do I think, I know it's a bit early for this, but is there any that I think I'm going to have trouble completing? And so far I still think that I could like realistically finish most of my goals. The only one that usually gives me a hang up every year is when I say I want to do some patterns from my library, so like PDF patterns. But I took some time one day earlier, maybe last week, and I went into my library on Ravelry and I looked at all my PDF patterns. And I was like, okay, are there 2 PDF patterns that I have, that I own, that I could see myself wanting to make this year? And I did find enough that I'm like, I think I can complete that goal. So I've kind of got a little bin of yarn here where I've pulled yarn from my stash for projects that I feel like I might want to cast on or start soon. And I could see, even though I have a lot kind of going on over here with the other projects, there's still some that I want to cast on. There's some other things, some quick little projects that I want to start, and you might just see next time. So I'm going to show you these and what I have in mind, and then I think we'll talk about goals for next episode. So the first one would actually work towards the square that is do 2 patterns from my library, 2 PDF patterns. And one of the patterns that I found when I was going through my library was called, I think it was called, what was it called? Wolcott? I don't remember. I'll put it up in the corner here with the designer name. I'm pretty sure it was Alicia Plummer. But it was this cowl, and I've had this cowl. I bought it years ago. One of the funny things I noticed when I was looking at all these patterns is some of them I clicked on just to see the information it will tell you when you purchase them. So many of them are like from 2015. 2015 to 2017 was like my peak pattern buying time. And there's just so many. There's so many that I bought that have just been sitting in my library for years and years and years. So I'm hoping to make a couple of them this year. And one is this cowl. So yeah, I popped a picture up. That's what it looks like. And one of the things that attracted me to this is the way that she has it styled in the pattern photo. It looks almost like it's a double layer cowl. Because of the way that it's folded in over at the top and the bottom. But when you look at project pictures, it's not. It just has ribbing at the top, and then it has the cable section in the middle and ribbing at the bottom. But I really like how it looks when it looks almost like it's a double knit design. And that's what I'm thinking of doing, of modifying it just a little bit to get that kind of look that I like. So I pulled 2 yarns. I've got this yarn here, and it's from CS Dye. I don't even know if they dye anymore. This is from years and years and years ago. But I have always just loved how these colors kind of look together, the speckling. I love it. So I have 2 skeins of that. And then I also have 2 skeins of this Knit Picks Twill. I bought this, I think, in either 2020 or 2019. I knew Kira was coming, and I bought this as a potential yarn to make her a baby. Maybe it was before she was born because it's such a neutral color. Maybe this was before we knew that Kira was going to be Kira, and I thought this would be a good neutral yarn, like good neutral baby yarn. It's a superwash wool, just like this one is, but it's in a cream, which I thought would work really well for the cables. So my plan is to do something similar to what I've done with the double cowls that I've made Avery. I think I've made her at least 2 of them, where they have the 2, you basically make a long tube and then fold it in on itself so that it's like a double knit layer, and then you kind of graft one of the ends together. And I'm planning to do the same thing. So I'm going to use the cream held double, which is why I have the 2 skeins of everything. I want it to be thick. I think the pattern calls for a bulky weight, so I think that's why I'm doing this. So I'm going to hold 2 strands together. I'm going to do the cable part in the cream, and then I'm going to do whatever technique. I'll have to go back and look at my projects and see what I did, but I'm going to do whatever the technique it is that I do to do this, the layer in the mid, like on the inside, and I'm going to do that in the speckled in just stockinette. So what I'm thinking in the end is that I'll get a cowl that I can either have with the cream on the outside, and then I kind of want just like a little edging on the top and bottom of the speckle. I can either have that as a one design, or I can turn it inside out and then have just a plain speckled cowl if I want, with the cream on the inside. That's what my little brain is envisioning. I think it would be a fairly quick project because it is with the yarn, worsted weight yarn held double. But I kind of want to cast that on. I kind of want to cast it on, get started on the cream, get started into those cables, just see how it's going to look. I think it's going to be really, really nice. And I do wear cowls, so I think it is a project that I will end up getting use out of. The other thing that I have in my little basket here is I have a cake of some worsted weight. This is actually some Bling your string yarn. This is one of my 50-gram skeins of worsted weight. That's something that I'm trying to introduce for shows and stuff, is 50-gram skeins of worsted weight that you can use as accents, or so either accents to 100 grams, or for smaller projects, or just like other ways of using them. And what I'm hoping to do for my the shows that I have this year is to have a few samples in my booth using these 50-gram skeins of worsted. So this is one of the cakes that I've kind of wound up, and I want to do a little baby garment because I'm like 50 grams is perfect for either doing an accent on a larger size or a small size. And I found this pattern on Ravelry. If I can remember, I'll put it up there in the corner, where it's just this top-down little shrug. And I think this will be perfect for it because you cast on at the top, and then when the yarn runs out, and it's a little shrug. It can be shorter, it can be longer, depending on how much yarn you have. And it's, like I said, it's a free pattern. So I'm planning on doing a little sample for my booth out of this with that. That, once I cast it on, really should not take very long. I think it would only take a couple of days. So who knows, I might be able to maybe have that for next time. We'll see. And then the other thing that is in my little basket is some dishcloth cotton. One of my goals on my bingo card is to do 6 dishcloths. I try to do dishcloths every holiday season as gifts. And so I pulled some colors out that I could maybe get started on those, because I can do a dishcloth in a day or two, and it might be nice just to kind of whip a few of those out and see how that goes. So I have this little basket here of projects I want to cast on. You may see some of these by the next time, you may not. Let's take a moment and think, what are my goals going to be for next time? I'm aiming for, another 3-week time span between episodes. I have a feeling that I'm going to finish the microstripe socks for Rebecca. I just think they're too much fun to work on, and I'm going to keep working on them, and I think those will be done. I think I might get the first sock done on my mom's speckled socks. I think that's doable. I think Kira's sweater will definitely be done. I might be able to finish the back of my trestle tee. And then, shall we do one more goal? I think, let's just say I'm going to cast on the cowl. I'm not sure about the baby sweater, but I think I will cast on the cowl. I think that kind of design idea is just too tempting in my head, and I'm going to want to cast that on. So those are going to be my goals for the next episode. And that is it for now. It is way too late. It is past my bedtime at this point. And I need to wrap this up and go to bed, because someone, Kira, is not going to care that I was up late tonight, and she's going to be up at her normal super early time tomorrow morning. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you had fun seeing all the things that I was working on or have been working on. I hope you're working on some really fun projects as well. Let me know your favorite thing that you are currently working on. And if you're in bingo, how's your bingo card going? I hope you have a wonderful weekend, evening, day, whatever it is when you're watching this, and I will talk to you soon.